It's Autism Awareness Month, and between a hit Netflix show and RFK Jr.'s recent inflammatory remarks, the internet is in an all-out debate about what autism actually is, how it should be represented, and what kind of future we should be fighting for. And I'll be honest, this month's conversation has hit different. I've been watching these conversations unfold not just as someone who covers politics and culture, but as someone who has close relationships with people on the spectrum, people who are vibrant and hilarious and complicated and loving, and also sometimes struggling in ways we rarely see portrayed with accuracy or empathy. I also am a supporter of something called the neurodiversity movement, which is a social and civil rights movement that views neurological differences like autism or ADHD or even dyslexia not as disorders to necessarily be cured, but as natural variations of the human brain. And it's a movement I was exposed to by the incredible work of Temple Grandin, who you should absolutely go look into if you haven't. And I feel very strongly that in trying to eliminate or mute these variations altogether, we would lose something very important as a society. That all being said, I also helped start and run a program for kids with special needs, many of them very severe, at my church a few years ago. And I saw firsthand the very real struggles that many families face when trying to raise kids on the more progressed end of the spectrum. And I've also heard from many of you over the years who have valid concerns over what seems to be an explosion in diagnoses that could be caused not by natural variations, but by external influences. And I think that it's valid to want to get to the bottom of that. So all of this got me thinking, how do we talk and think about autism in a way that truly honors the full spectrum? How do we create a society that accepts people as they are without negating the hardships of some individuals and their families due to autism? That's what I want to unpack today through a lens of both pop culture and public policy, from Netflix to the campaign trail. So that's where we're going. First, I'm Hannah Cox. Welcome to my channel where I bring you politically homeless takes on politics and culture. I apologize for my very long absence over the past 2 to 3 weeks. I have been on the road, being a road warrior, passing bills, doing some mainstream media opportunities. I was on the Tim Pool show last week. I've also got a bunch of Fox News hits coming up later. This week I'll be in New York for, so it's just been very tough to actually sit here and film, but I've missed you guys. I hope you've missed me too. Before we get started today, make sure you like this video, take a second to subscribe to my channel, make sure you hit the notification bell so you never miss any episodes and so that we can stay connected no matter what my schedule might look like. Okay, so I feel like I'm actually trying to bite off a lot today, but it all flows together, so I'm going to try to cover a lot of ground. I first wanted to make this video because my husband and I watched the new 3rd season of Love on the Spectrum. It was our first time seeing the show, and we were captivated. I had always had a bit of hesitancy around consuming Love on the Spectrum because I feared that it might veer into the territory of making fun of people with autism or being exploitative. That being said, I also feel like if neurotypical people can sign up for reality TV and make a fool of themselves and be exploited, then shouldn't people with autism get those same opportunities? Ultimately, we got reeled in by a newer cast member named Madison, who I am just obsessed with. This person is infectious. You cannot watch her on your screen and not smile.
So I'm going on a date on Wednesday.
Oh, are you excited?
Yes. I have no idea who this guy is, what he's like.
It's a blind date?
Yeah, it is a blind date.
How do you feel about that?
A little anxious.
She is just so inspiring to me. She's so authentically herself at all times. She knows exactly what she wants. She puts herself out there over and over. She believes in herself so strongly. And Madison, like many of the cast, lives independently. She has close relationships with her family. She also has friends who are neurotypical. She owns her own business. She's wonderfully creative, as you can see by the jewelry she wears that she makes. She definitely is, by all means, somebody who is not on the more progressed end of the spectrum. But her story is still important. And I think that is so true when you watch this whole show. For all of the people who are on it, you really come away feeling like autism is a superpower, not a handicap. Like, you just see their amazing ability to cut through the BS a lot of the time, to be so much more upfront. There's just so many great things. They're so knowledgeable about subject matter. I mean, it really did have this great aspect of having representation that was feel good, having storytelling that helps you connect with people and their families and really come away feeling like you know these people and therefore are more invested in what happens to them. Not only that, but I think a lot of people who watched this were straight up envious of the dating scene on the spectrum because it was, dare I say, so much healthier. Like consent culture amongst the men, especially, is big.
Do you have any rules when it comes to dating? Well, you're not allowed to tickle them. I know you're not allowed to tickle them, but you can still give them a hug and a high five. What about a kiss? Oh yeah, I don't know, no. But can you still kiss them? I should know if you don't know if you can or not.
And not only that, but the romance, so much more alive. These people were doing the most first, second date. I mean, when the vast majority of people cannot get a match on Hinge, cannot get a text back, are getting ghosted, some of these girls were getting American Girl dolls on their second date. American Girl dolls are expensive, okay? I could only get like one a year as a kid because they were so expensive. It was like my big Christmas present. And this guy, I'm just going to roll for you. It's incredible.
Oh, yeah. And I got you something too.
Really?
Of course, here's Christmas wrap since we both love Christmas.
And both our favorite colors, red.
That's right.
Oh my God. I think I know what this could be. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You got me, Nikki.
Yeah. It's a country singer since
Oh
we
my God,
both love
Nikki,
country
the
music.
2007 Girl of the Year.
Oh.
I also was not eating gluten all day for you because I don't know how celiac works. Like, if I kiss you and you have a peanut allergy, I can kill you. Oh, no, you won't.
Just the attentiveness and the paying attention to details about a person and taking them into consideration. It's so sad that that is a rare thing to find in our dating scene today, but it is. And to top it all off, these men on the show were feminist icons. Like, not only were they so respectful and chivalrous and thoughtful, but they also had very good, clear communication, were upfront about what they wanted, what they thought. They were very quick to say, hey, I'm just going to be friends if this isn't moving forward. And most importantly, despite the fact that many of these people have been rejected over and over and over in their lives because of a disorder that they cannot control, you never once saw these men getting upset about being rejected, becoming hostile to women, spewing misogyny or red pill incel talking points. It really was to really look at like how so many men online behave these days, and then to watch these gems on this show conduct themselves in the face of rejection. It was such a startling difference.
I take a few more learning experiences before you find the one, but
right.
Don't give up.
No, certainly not.
But what I loved, I think, most of all, besides getting to know this cast, was watching the love that their families had for each other. They accepted them. They championed them. They were covering them with grace. It was very reminiscent of the time I have spent not only in conducting the special needs class that I used to help run, but also around so many families that I had the privilege of growing up with throughout my life. I think because I grew up homeschooled and in Christian communities, we were always around a ton of people who had at least one member of their family who had some kind of a special need. Autism was a little less common when I was a kid, at least in my circles. But I knew a lot of people who had a sibling who had Down syndrome or some other sort of disability. And this was exactly how the families I was around always treated them, always very inclusive, always wanting to make sure their sibling was looked after. That mentality flowed out to their friends. And so like we would all really encircle that individual, make sure they were included. It was just such a wonderful, beautiful experience. And I thought that that translated on this TV show. And it was just really great to see so many people getting to meet families like that, because maybe in your day-to-day, you wouldn't encounter them. These families do not see these individuals as burdens or problems or detractions. In fact, the only thing that really seems to bother them is the way the rest of society treats their loved one. Like one of the actual saddest moments on the show is when one of the cast members, James, gets set up to go on a speed dating event where it seems everybody else was neurotypical, which I thought was a production choice I didn't agree with. I'll get into that in a minute. But he handled all the rejection well. He still came home pretty optimistic. He kind of let it roll off his back, but his mother really took it hard.
Yes, it makes me feel very sad. I just expected him to maybe find a match, or at least one.
As a whole, I thought the show did so much to increase acceptance and understanding of people with autism. It really was a feel-good, heartwarming show. I did have some criticisms of it. It did veer into a few areas that made me uncomfortable. They were almost entirely production related. Like some of the music they would use was often not only childish music, but sort of like comical music, which I know they would do that on a traditional reality show to sort of make fun of people or mock them anyways, but it just feels icky in this setting. There were also some things they do with like just the angles with how they'd shoot people that felt a little invasive and not flattering and not really something you typically see on a reality show. And then there was a few casting moments that I thought crossed the line. Again, sending James into a speed dating event where nobody else has autism, that felt a bit cruel. Also, one of the dates Madison went on was with a young man who seemed very overstimulated in his environment, which I think production would have been privy to and could have picked a better location for their date due to that. But I feel like they kind of threw him to the wolves, and the scene was awful to watch. But as a whole, these were pretty minor things. I thought, again, the show did a good job of offering representation, and representation does matter because for the vast majority of people, you don't care about people you don't know. You just don't. It's very unhuman to have that like actual connection to people and care about what specifically happens to them without some sort of tie-in. And so having TV shows like this that really help you take people with autism away from being a broad category filled with people you don't know and maybe a lot of stereotypes or strawmen into a grounding where you actually connect with the cast and have a better understanding of their day-to-day lives and of their families, it changes how you approach these things. It changes the empathy that you have towards these populations. And that's true for any population. But I think when it comes to people with disabilities, they're often behind the scenes. It's hard for their families to get them out and about sometimes. They do get overstimulated in many environments. They often keep to themselves. A sad fact is a lot of parents who have a kid with special needs will end up getting divorced because of the strain that it places on their marriage and on their family. And so it really is unlikely that many people get to interact with people who have autism, at least this intimately, without a show like this. And that matters. As a whole, I only had some minor criticisms of the show. So I was surprised when I went to TikTok and saw how much hate the show was getting from the autism community. It was like everyone was making so much progress. This was such a like bright light. And then like the Ashquillies came rolling in. And honestly, a lot of it was giving jealousy. There were people saying that this was infantilizing or exploitative, which is, again, is a concern I had before watching it. I didn't come away feeling that way. And certainly it doesn't seem the cast does either. They're all raking in millions of followers online. They've gotten massive influencer deals. They're on major network talking shows. I don't think they feel exploited, nor do they seem to feel that the show in any way infantilized them.
I just want to offer you something to think about in case you come across someone who says love on the spectrum doesn't provide a dignified representation of autism. There's a lot of irony in the fact that none of these critics have asked the actual cast members how we felt about our portrayal. Most of us from the show are on social media and frequently talk about our experiences. You can't hear us say that we enjoyed our time on the show and then turn around and claim that we were actually treated like children, we just didn't realize it. To talk over the entire cast who've all said we felt it was positive for us and claim we weren't treated with dignity seems sort of hypocritical. That line of thinking in itself is way more infantilizing than anything I encountered on the show.
I also saw people making this argument that the show did not pay the cast, therefore it was unethical and taking advantage of them. Here's one example. This person on Twitter said, finding out that Love on the Spectrum doesn't pay the cast just gives me yet another reason to be a justified hater. Newsflash, you walnut. Very few reality shows pay their cast members. This is like a widely known thing. There's a whole push for reality show people to organize and try to form a union, which is stupid, but they are trying to do that because they don't typically get paid, or if they get paid, it's very low wages. Most of the money a reality show person would make comes after the show is a success. The other thing I saw coming more from within the autism community itself that I just thought was really annoying and sort of like eating your own was the argument that the show was too one-dimensional, that it cast people who were too high performing, that were too wealthy, saying they all came from at least middle class to upper wealth backgrounds, saying that the show was too white. I mean, just really ridiculous far left criticisms as a whole. But like, here's one example of that. Someone said everyone in the family is watching Love on the Spectrum, and what they don't tell you about the show is the extreme amount of vetting they go through to make sure their participants are autistic enough to be entertaining, but only in charming ways. It's not a realistic depiction of dating among people on the spectrum. No, Sherlock. These people, if they're going to participate on Love on the Spectrum, have to film for hours and hours a day. They have to be okay in an environment that has tons of lights on them, tons of cameras around them. They have to be able to go in public and meet people. They have to be able to go on dates. There has to be an actual storyline for us to follow. So yes, they are going to make sure that the people they are casting have autism, and they do. They very obviously do in many ways, but also that they are able to be in that environment in an ethical way, that they're able to actually consent to being filmed, and that they are able to create a storyline. When you were on reality TV, you have a job to do. Anybody who's done it knows that. You have to be able to participate in shaping your own story. So this is one of the dumbest criticisms I have ever heard. It's called Love on the Spectrum because it is acknowledging that there is a spectrum of people. And even within the cast, there is clearly a spectrum of people and their abilities and their hardships that they are facing. But there is a line there. And I think if they were to cross that line, it would no longer be the same show. Maybe it should be a different show. I still question whether that could actually be something that could really happen with many people who are struggling significantly with these disorders. But this is a really dumb criticism. And so is criticizing the fact that a lot of these people are white or have a higher wealth portfolio than you might like. The other simple reality is that families who have more resources probably are able to intervene earlier when it comes to having a diagnosis of autism. They're able to get speech therapy. They're able to get other types of treatments so that the individual is further ahead when all is said and done. I have a person in my family who is diagnosed with autism who is very high performing. And honestly, if you were around her, you might not even notice right away that she has autism because her parents have done such an amazing job getting her resources and treatments and early intervention. Unfortunately, not everybody's family is capable of doing that, not only due to the amount of money that it takes, but also the time investment. And that is why most sane people in this whole advocacy area are talking about more acceptance of autism and better resources, better detection, better intervention, helping other families know what to do if they're in this boat, which I will say another one of the cast members, Abby, and her mom do a tremendous job of online. They are amazing self-advocates for the autism community, and yet they're constantly getting these kinds of criticisms lobbed at them from people who, again, just seem somewhat jealous of their progress and of what Abby has been able to achieve. It's just super toxic stuff. I'll pause here though, guys. I'm curious if you've seen Love on the Spectrum. What were your takeaways? I especially want to know what you thought if you or a family member is in the autism community. I have to roll out a new product. I've never done any kind of actual sponsorships or promotions on the show before. All of the work for Base Politics has always been supported by our incredible, generous, amazing principal donors who we are so thankful for. But I've had a couple of really great companies approach me over the past couple of months. And I promise you, I'm only ever going to talk to you about products I actually decide to use and like. And today I have to talk to you about one of those. And I actually have it right here with me on my desk because I just added it to my own energy drink this morning. So quick shout out to today's sponsor, Good Brew. If you drink coffee, smoothies, really anything in the morning, this is the easiest health upgrade you can make because it is flavorless. We love a sneaky health additive. Good Brew is a probiotic supplement that comes in a tiny, mess-free little shot. You can stir right into your drink. It's flavorless, shelf-stable, and super effective, giving your gut that good bacteria it needs without any pills or extra sugar. Personally, I think most probiotics taste pretty gross and or make me feel a bit sick. They often need refrigeration, so you can't travel with them, so they really mess up your routine. This is such a great option. With Good Brew, you can just add it to what you're already drinking, move on with your day. I've had no side effects. I've been adding it to my morning coffee and energy drinks, which I know I should not be drinking, but hopefully the good additives in Good Brew are offsetting my poor choices with drinking energy drinks. Anyways, I feel much better. I feel less bloated. I feel more regular. It's also keto, which if you followed me for a long time, you know I used to be super keto. I'm now just sort of low carb, but that's also very important to me. So check out the link in my show notes. You can use the coupon code Hannah to get a discount and let me know what you think once you check it out. And now back to our regularly scheduled programming. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. All right, so we have to move on from our feel-good topic of the episode and move into the other end of the spectrum. Over the past week, RFK Jr. went bonkers viral after he made some public comments that really exposed the tension between people with lived experience and neurodiversity and the public discourse around autism. And I think it also really brought sort of the infighting amongst the autism community to the surface. Here's the clip that went viral.
Sir, this is an individual tragedy as well. Autism destroys families. More importantly, it destroys our greatest resource, which are our children. These are children who should not be suffering like this. These are kids who, many of them were fully functional and regressed because of some environmental exposure into autism when they're 2 years old. And these are kids who will never pay taxes. They'll never hold a job. They'll never play baseball. They'll never write a poem. They'll never go out on a date. Many of them will never use a toilet unassisted. And we have to recognize we are doing this to our children.
Oof. I do understand why people were upset. He called autism a tragedy. He said it destroys families. Those are such strong words. Strong words and often untrue words, as many people began pointing out. Both individuals with autism and their families were countering him and saying, I absolutely do work a job. I contribute. I have these amazing creative hobbies. I have this career. I do pay taxes. How dare you diminish me? How dare you diminish the life that I live? How dare you basically insinuate that I shouldn't exist? I mean, that's how a lot of people took it. It's kind of hard not to take it that way. It ruffled my feathers too. But then you had people on the other end of the community, people who do have individuals in their families who do have very progressed autism, who are not nearly as high functioning of many of the people who are pushing back on this, showing insights into their lives and saying, what do you think we do about this? Look at how my family has to live. Look at how this individual lives. Like, how dare you say that this doesn't need answers, that this doesn't need a cure, that we shouldn't be concerned with growing caseloads of people whose lives look like this.
This is my brother, Eric. Eric, say hi. Oh, Eric can't say hi. He's nonverbal. About 25-30% of people with autism, like Eric, are nonverbal. And what we would like to do is just figure out why the rate of autism is increasing and get to the bottom of what causes autism. Eric, sound good?
Good.
Eric will never work a job, never pay taxes, and my mom took care of him for 30 years. And it was extremely tough burden for a mom to take care of a child like Eric for 30 years when most people could not take care of a child for 18 years as well as my mom did for myself and Eric for 30. It's crazy, and we just want to figure out why. So this is what people with autism are like. They're rarely like Love on the Spectrum. It's just not like that. But fortunately, we're at St. Augustine Center for Living, and Eric has a decent life living here with all these animals. It's pretty good. Things turned out pretty well, but we'd still like to figure out what causes it so that most people don't have autism like Eric.
Like a Applebee's store. All right. No Applebee's today. You can have hot dog, pancakes, or pizza. The Applebee's? No, we can go to Applebee's on Wednesday. The Applebee's. Applebee's restaurant, Wednesday. Today, hot dogs, pancakes, or pizza.
Do you? Oh, no.
What? Which one do you want?
No.
No.
No. No.
Are you?
Oh, no.
Okay, are you?
At the end of the day, many things can be true. And I think that's where our public discourse tends to really break down, is that people no longer see nuance. Everything is so black and white to them. And it's interesting when we're talking about something that centers around the concept of there being a spectrum of experiences within it, it's actually just very unproductive to do that. Not all autism is a tragedy, but sometimes it is. And if there are environmental factors contributing to that, then we should know it and seek to change them. And if you believe that this isn't true and you think that it's all a conspiracy theory and that the increase in cases is just due to advanced detection, okay. But a significant number of people don't believe that. And because they don't believe that, they increasingly do not trust the medical community. They don't trust the experts within it, often for good reason, because they have been lied to on other issues within this sort of umbrella. And therefore, they are making choices that many people find to be harmful, like choosing not to get their kids shot up, essentially. When enough people have doubts about something, and those doubts are causing them to do things that society wants them to not do, you cannot just try to use force or mocking them to get them to comply. What you actually have to do is provide better proof. This is what the experts in the medical community so vastly failed to do during COVID, and it's why so much trust has been eroded within that whole landscape. Because they are elitist. They often are authoritarian. They act very uppity towards people who doubt them. They mock them. They put them down instead of doing their jobs of providing more evidence, providing more information, and actually countering the things they think are incorrect. If you truly believe the truth is on your side, you shouldn't have a problem doing that. And because of the substantial number of people that do think autism is rising because of environmental factors, we probably need to take more time to study it and to then explain the results of those studies to people. What's also true, though, is that many people with autism live vibrant lives, contribute not only in meaningful but unique ways to our world, and that a world without autism would be a less vibrant and interesting place. Our society benefits from being more informed on their realities too, and media, like Love on the Spectrum, provides an important bridge that allows that and fosters not only awareness, but genuine appreciation for autism. The way we talk about autism from reality TV to presidential candidates shapes how autistic people are treated. And a spectrum means that these individuals have a range of different needs. Their families have a wide array of ways they feel about their lived experiences. And society needs to probably have a less rigid and wider range of approaches when it comes to this subject matter. All right, guys, I hope you liked this episode. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and head over to platforms like Twitter or TikTok if you want even more content.